Tempt. Romance audiobooks. A safe place to explore your dreams.
1. Anastasia. "Thank you, Annabella. That will be all," Victoria says, closing the file folder we were just going over and sitting back in her seat. With her half-black, half-silver hair, she reminds me of Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians. And I briefly wonder if she has a stash of puppies she's holding hostage somewhere. "It's Anastasia," I correct. Not for the first time, as I pick up the reports off the table. "If there's anything else you—" "Nope, I think we have everything we need." She plasters on a fake smile, silently indicating I've been dismissed. I stuff the files into my Bottega Veneta briefcase that my father sent me for my birthday last year and then stand, feeling completely rejected. I spent hours upon hours working on those reports and projections, only for Cruella to barely give them a glance. When I'd brought up the idea at a meeting last month and she said I was welcome to pitch it, I should have known she was full of shit. When I get back to my office, Paige, my best friend and colleague, is waiting for me. Between her slim figure, stunning looks, and the fact that with heels on she towers over most men, she looks more like a runway model than a marketing executive for Benson Liquor. The second she sees my facial expression, her pouty lips turn down. Such a damn waste. I hiss once my door is closed. I fish the files out of my bag and toss them into the garbage can, annoyed that I wasted so much of my time working on them when I knew Victoria didn't care about anyone's opinions or ideas but her own. I round my desk and slump back into my seat while Paige takes a seat in the visitor chair across from me. "It's not you," she says, blowing wisps of her blonde hair out of her eyes. "Victoria is a controlling know-it-all, and if she keeps it up, she's going to run this company straight into the ground." She's not lying. The numbers are down 30% for the quarter, an all-time low for the company. Victoria is blaming it on the economy, but when you compare our numbers to our competitors, theirs have gone up. The economy might be on shaky ground right now, but that isn't stopping people from drinking. And the last thing I want is to be here when it happens. I clasp my hand over my stomach and cross my legs. I'll never understand why her father thought it was a good idea to let his socialite daughter, who knows nothing about the liquor industry, take over the company when he retired. "Because she's a daddy's girl," Paige mocks and then gags, making me choke out a laugh despite not being in a laughing mood. Must be nice. I mutter just as my phone rings with Dad on my screen. And speak of the devil. I turn my phone so Paige can see, and she flinches. "You sure you want to answer that? You've already had a bad enough morning. Better to get the conversation over with." She nods in understanding and stands. "Lunch? You're not meeting John?" Since Paige and her boyfriend work near each other, they usually meet for lunch. "Nope, he has a lunch meeting." "Okay, then let's do lunch." "Sounds good." Since I missed my dad's call, I call him back once Paige has closed the door behind her. "Anastasia, have I caught you at a bad time?" he asks when he answers. "I'm at work, but I have a few minutes." Dad sighs at my curtness, and I close my eyes, hating what's become of us. I would give anything to have a relationship with the only parent I have left. But it's hard to do when that parent is partially responsible for the death of my other parent. When I was little, I was close to my dad. Well, as close as I could be as the daughter of a workaholic. But the bigger his business grew, the more he put it above his family. I tried everything to get his attention, including acting out and getting into some trouble in my teens. But my mom and I just couldn't compete with his company. After I graduated from high school and left for college, things between my parents only got worse, especially when I continued to lash out and damn near failed out of college my freshman year. Luckily, I turned it around and got my life together before it was too late. Just before my college graduation, Mom asked him for a divorce, but he begged her to give him another chance, swearing things would be different. Of course, she agreed. because he was the only man she'd ever loved. But while they were at dinner a couple of weeks after my graduation, he proved tigers couldn't change their stripes. I don't know all the details, but from what he said, there was an issue that came up with work that he had to deal with. She got annoyed that he was ignoring her by texting and taking calls during their meal, and she stormed out of the restaurant. As she stepped onto the sidewalk, a car came out of nowhere. A drunk driver who lost control and barreled right up onto the sidewalk and hit her. Dad was behind her and saw the entire thing. He called 911 and held her in his arms, but she died before they made it there. After losing my mom, who had also been my best friend, I took off to England, got my MBA in hospitality, and went to work for Benson Liquor, becoming one of their lead marketing analysts. My dad and I didn't speak for several years, not for his lack of trying, but on the 3rd anniversary of Mom's death, he left me a message, begging to talk. So I gave in. It's been 3 years, and we usually talk once or twice a month. I hate the distance between us, and I know my dad isn't the one who killed her, but a part of me can't help but blame him. "And how is work?" Dad asks conversationally. "Busy," I say back. "You know, trying to create a future for myself." I can't keep the bitterness out of my tone. I'm exhausted. I've been working 60-plus hours a week for the past several years, hoping to work my way up the corporate ladder. I always thought I'd end up working with my dad, but after everything went down and I left, he never once asked me to come home and work for his company. Hell, he won't even discuss business with me. "I don't want to mix business with family," is what he says anytime I bring up anything business-related. Whenever anyone asks, he always says he misses me, but is proud of me for spreading my wings and flying. "Life's too short," he says, making me roll my eyes. "You should focus on finding happiness." This isn't the first time he's said this, but today, after I had to deal with Victoria, his words hit harder. Says the man who was married to his work, I mutter. "Exactly." He agrees. "Which means I know what it's like to give something your everything and lose everyone that matters because of it." A lump of emotion lodges in my throat at his admittance, but I manage to swallow it down. He made his decisions, and now we all have to live with them. "Speaking of which," he adds when I don't say anything in return, "Celine and I are hosting Thanksgiving this year. I know it's quite a few months away, but I was hoping with enough notice you could put in for time off and come visit. I can pay for your flight." Celine is his new wife. They met a little over a year ago, and within 6 months they were married. I have nothing against her. I haven't even met her yet. But the thought of getting to know her feels like I would be betraying my mom. You know I can pay for my own flight. I make a decent living working at Benson, even if Victoria won't listen to a word I have to say. But even if I didn't, I'm worth millions, thanks to the money and assets left to me from my mom when she died and the trust my dad set up for me. But I've never touched the money they gave me. I feel like if I do, then I have to completely let him back in, and I'm just not ready to do that yet. "I know," he murmurs. "It's just, I miss you, Anastasia, and I'd love for you to meet Celine. What if we came to you?" "I can't," I choke out. "Work is busy during that time. Maybe after the first of the year. I have to go." Without waiting for him to respond, I click end on the call and throw my phone on the desk. Then, with my face in my hands, I let out a cathartic sob, allowing myself a moment of vulnerability before I slip my shield back on. "So, any chance of you moving back to Texas?" Paige asks just before she snatches up a piece of sushi and pops it into her mouth. "And why would I do that?" I ask, taking a bite of my food. Once she's done chewing, she washes it down with a sip of sake and then leans in. Because the owner and CEO of Kingston Limited, who just so happens to be your father, has announced he's retiring at the end of the year. I figured that was why he called you. Despite choosing to use my mother's maiden name, Webb, so I wouldn't have people thinking I was using his name to get further in the business world, I've allowed one person to know who I really am, Paige. It took a while before I completely let her in, but I knew she'd never tell a soul. He what? I gasp, having no damn clue what she's talking about. He didn't tell you. Her brows pinched together in confusion. No? Are you sure? The man I know would never step down. He lives and breathes Kingston Limited. I pull my phone out and do a search, and sure enough, the first article that pops up is about him announcing his retirement. As I scan the words, I can't believe what I'm seeing. But more than that, he didn't tell me. I whisper, trying and failing to tamp down my emotions. According to this article, before he retires, he'll be appointing a new CEO to take his place and run Kingston Limited. Paige's features soften, but I don't want her sympathy. What I want is to know why my father wouldn't even mention to his daughter, who grew up in the liquor industry and has worked in it for years, that he's stepping down. I need to get out of here, I tell her, standing abruptly. Go, I've got this, she says. Thanks, I mutter, slinging my purse over my shoulder and then stalking out of the restaurant. Instead of going back to work, I head straight home, not even bothering to let anyone know. Once I'm there, I waste no time in calling my dad, who answers on the first ring. Anastasia, is everything okay? Of course he'd ask that, because I haven't called him since my mom passed away. He's always the one who reaches out. Why didn't you tell me that you're stepping down? I ask, getting straight to the point. We never discuss business. By your choice. Yes, because that business destroyed my family. Why would I talk about it when we could be talking about you, working on our relationship? That business is you, I point out. When I was a little girl, I practically grew up there. I used to hang out in the conference rooms and pretend I was an employee. The only reason I stopped going was because you stopped paying attention to me. Anastasia, he breathes. I'm sorry. Is it because you think I'm incapable? I ask, cutting him off. I have a degree in business, an MBA. I've lived and breathed the liquor industry my entire life. Why? I cry out, realizing how hurt I am by his actions. Why am I not good enough to work for Kingston? No, Anastasia, that's not it, Dad says, sounding almost choked up. I didn't even think you'd want to work for me. You ran across the pond 6 years ago, and I haven't seen you since. I can't even convince you to come home to visit. But also, he clears his throat. And please don't take this the wrong way, but I'm not sure you'd be a good fit as CEO of Kingston. What? Why? I ask, taken aback by the change in direction of the conversation. Despite the issues we've had over the years, I've made it a point to portray myself as a family man. People judge liquor companies, and because of that, I feel it's best to hire someone who's more family-oriented. I can't help the scoff that bursts out. I know, Dad says. I was great at being the face of the company, but not so great at the behind the scenes. And because of that, I want to make some changes. I'd like to see the company go in a different direction. Picnics, family-friendly events, maternity leave. Celine suggested putting in a daycare for the employees who have babies that aren't school age. I'm hoping to hire someone who has a family and can help with this transition. I don't want whoever takes my place to make the same mistakes I made, to put the business above his or her family. And if I were to hire you, I fear you wouldn't find love. You'd be too busy trying to take the company to the next level. And I want more for you, Anastasia." Who is this man? And what has he done with my dad? So let me get this straight. Because you didn't put your family first, you want to make the business more family-oriented, which means not hiring your own flesh and blood? I'm trying to right my wrongs by pushing me away? That's not what I'm doing, Anastasia. I have no doubt you're capable of running the company, but I don't think you're in the right position to run Kingston. I see so much of me in you. You barely know me. Just because I haven't seen you doesn't mean I don't know you, he says. You're just as business and power-driven as I was. Did he seriously just say was, as if he's no longer that way? Do you even date? He asks. When's the last time you did anything for yourself? I'm sorry, Anastasia, but I don't feel like hiring you would be what's best for the company. But that doesn't mean I don't love you and want a better relationship with you. I gotta go, I choke out, unable to listen to another word he has to say. I vaguely hear him say my name as I click end and fling my phone across the table. He won't hire you because you don't have a family? Paige's brows furrow in confusion. He's decided that to fix the mistakes of his past, he's going to reinvent Kingston, starting with hiring a family man. Or woman, I guess. I pace my office, my brain and emotions running wild. I've been in this state ever since my dad and I hung up last night. I never thought I'd be so upset over him not wanting me to work there. Dad wasn't lying when he said it destroyed our family. It might have been his decisions that landed us where we are, but it was his love of that company that made it so easy for him to choose business over his family. And I've spent the better part of my adulthood resenting both him and the company because of it. But knowing that the spot is available, that he thinks I'm so power-hungry, I'd make the same horrible mistakes he's made regarding his family, is driving me insane and making me want to prove him wrong. And if I'm honest, a part of me wants him to see that I'm capable and make him proud. If I were married, I wouldn't need to reinvent the company, I scoff. Unlike my father, I know how to manage my time. I could easily be a wife and a mom and run the company, and I wouldn't destroy everyone in my wake. But even as I say the words out loud, I wonder if I'm telling the truth. I've worked 60-plus hour work weeks for as long as I can remember. Could I have accomplished what I have if I had to cut back the hours? If I'd had a husband and child who needed my attention? I swallow thickly, suddenly questioning if I've been too hard on my dad. Could he have built his company to be just as successful if he had cut his hours in half? I'm not so sure. But what I do know is that it doesn't matter because what's done is done and I'm not married, nor am I having children anytime soon, if ever. And I'm definitely capable of being CEO, even as a single woman. We live in the 21st century, for crying out loud. I don't need a husband and 2.5 kids to successfully run a company. The problem is, once my dad is set in his ways, there's no changing his mind. Which means, too bad you aren't married, Paige says with a laugh, bringing me back into the now. Or a mom, then you could show him how it's done. My eyes snap to hers. But what if I was? A mom? No, I shake my head. A wife. The craziest idea hits me. What if I fell in love and got married? Then he'd be forced to consider me for the position. And then I could show him that I'm capable of being the face of Kingston despite not being a family woman. You're not even dating anyone, though, she points out. And have you ever been in love? Ignoring her question, my brain formulates a plan. What was that site that Ronald in advertising mentioned? The one where wealthy men can find themselves a trophy wife? Paige laughs. In case you haven't noticed, you're not exactly trophy wife material. I mean, you're gorgeous, but I'm pretty sure they're also supposed to be brainless and docile. True, but that site has men who are used to dealing with wealth, who wouldn't blink twice at a prenup. If I could score myself one of those men, I could use him to get in the running for CEO, the same way he'd be using me. And then it hits me. What if nobody picked me? Paige laughs. Stop it. You're beautiful and smart, and you come from a wealthy family. You practically drip elegance. Sure, you'd have to fake being dumb, but there's no way any red-blooded male in his right mind wouldn't pick you to hang on his arm. Worst case scenario? Paige shrugs. You pick up a guy at a bar and convince him to fake marry you. The thought of having to search bars or clubs to pick up a guy and convince him to marry me for pretend makes my skin crawl. Hopefully there's someone from that service in Texas who's looking for a wife. Wait, Texas? She frowns. Does that mean you're moving? That's where Kingston's headquarters is. Paige's eyes go wide. You're going to have to quit Benson. I know. I can't work here while trying to vie for the CEO position there. Paige nods. I'm going to miss you. She flings her arms around me for a hug. When we pull back, I swallow nervously and then say, looks like I'll be putting in my 2 weeks, while wondering if I'm in over my head. Can I really do this? Find a fake husband, move to Texas, and show up on my dad's front step, demanding he give me the chance to prove I'm capable of running his company? Looks like there's only one way to find out. We need to find the number to that arranged marriage service.
You can listen to the rest of the book in the Tempt Romance audiobooks app, available on the App Store and Google Play. The link to the book is in the description. Discover even more bestsellers and exclusive stories updated weekly, only in Tempt Romance audiobooks.